In the farthest corner of the galaxy, the Empire of Zelar reigns supreme, its power unmatched and its people bound by fear. At the heart of this empire sits Queen Varela, an untouchable ruler whose beauty is as deadly as her strength. Her silver skin glows in the dark, her eyes burn like twin blue suns, and for centuries, no one has dared to approach her. Her touch is lethal, her presence a curse, and she has lived alone, feared, revered, and utterly isolated. But when a human named Lucas Gray is captured during a skirmish with the Zelar Empire, everything changes. Dragged before the Queen, the guards demand he kneels before her, as all have done before. But Lucas refuses. With unwavering eyes, he stands tall and says, "I don't kneel for tyrants." His defiance ripples through the throne room, silencing everyone around him. For the first time in years, Queen Varela is confronted by someone who is not afraid of her. As the room holds its breath, she steps down from her throne, walking slowly toward the defiant human, her eyes searching his, confused by the warmth he feels, unlike the deadly touch she's always known. What happens when the most powerful being in the galaxy meets the one person who doesn't fear her? Join us as the Queen's unbreakable world begins to crack, and the Empire is thrown into chaos. Will a single act of defiance break the chains of a Queen's curse? Stay with us as we unravel the story of Queen Varela and the human who dared to change everything. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think will happen next? Could love be the key to her freedom? Far away, deep within the vastness of the universe, lies an empire known as Zelar, ruling over all. An ancient civilization so powerful that it instills fear and awe in all who hear its name. This empire stretches across countless star systems, its borders marked by silent, glowing beacons in the vastness of space. At the heart of this empire sits a ruler, one who has transcended the boundaries of death, her presence both a gift and a curse to those who dare approach. Queen Varela, a figure of unmatched beauty, rules from her crystal throne in her palace. Her silver skin glows softly in the eternal darkness of the throne room, reflecting the faint light of distant stars. It is said that her eyes shine like twin blue suns, radiant, infinite, and unyielding. But it is not just her beauty that commands fear. No, it is the energy she carries, a force that echoes from ancient, unfathomable times. To be in her presence is to feel the weight of death pressing down on your very soul. Her touch, a deadly weapon. Those who have dared lay hands on her, even the most powerful of her subjects, have met a painful end, sickened, burned, and crushed by the mere touch of her skin. Her power is both her gift and her curse. A curse that has forced her to live alone, untouchable, and forever without love for centuries. The throne room of Queen Varela was vast and silent, a place where power and fear hung thick in the air. The walls were adorned with glowing alien symbols, their light pulsing softly as if alive. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Queen Varela. Her presence felt even before her image was fully seen, her silver skin glowing like the moon. The room, despite its grandeur, felt cold, distant, as if it belonged to another time, another world. Today, However, the silence was broken by the arrival of an unexpected guest. The heavy doors creaked open, revealing two of the Queen's guards, dragging a figure into the room. A human. His name was Lucas Gray. A soldier from Earth, captured in a skirmish at the edges of the Zelar Empire. His clothes were torn, his face smeared with dirt and sweat, his hands bound tightly behind his back. Despite the harsh treatment, there was something in his eyes, an unwavering defiance that none in this room had expected. The guards forced him to his knees before the Queen. But Lucas didn't bow. He didn't even flinch. "Guard," commanding. "Kneel before the Queen." But Lucas remained standing, his eyes locked onto Queen Varela's glowing ones. "Lucas," calmly. "I don't kneel for tyrants." A deadly silence followed. The nobles in the room exchanged uneasy glances, and the guards stepped back in surprise, waiting for the Queen to act. Everyone expected her to unleash her deadly energy, to turn Lucas into ash in an instant. But she didn't. Instead, for the first time in months, Queen Varela rose from her crystal throne. The room seemed to hold its breath as she slowly descended the stairs, her every step making the ground hum with strange energy. The air around her shimmered, almost as if reality itself bent to her will. The guards, the nobles, everyone moved back in fear. But Lucas stood still, unafraid, unwavering. The Queen stopped just 2 feet in front of him, her eyes searching his face, her voice softer than the storm she was known to unleash. "Queen Varela," calmly, but with curiosity. "Why does my presence not hurt you?" Lucas looked up at her, a slight smirk on his face as he shrugged. "Lucas," nonchalantly, "feels warm, not painful. Like the sun on a spring day." The room gasped. The Queen, who had lived centuries without anyone daring to get close to her, let alone describe her presence as warm, was taken aback. Her thoughts, usually filled with cold power and isolation, now swirled with something unfamiliar. Queen Varela, musing softly to herself. Interesting. For the first time in years, she felt something stir within her curiosity, something she had long buried under layers of power and fear. She gave a quiet command to her guards. "Queen Varela," softly. "Take him to the royal cell. Keep him alive." The guards hesitated, uncertain. "Guard," uneasy. "My queen, he disrespects you. He is dangerous." With a simple flick of her hand, the room fell silent. She looked at the guards, her expression unreadable. "Queen Varela," firmly. "Alive." As the guards dragged Lucas away, he chuckled softly, his voice echoing in the cold silence of the throne room. Lucas, grinning. "Guess I made an impression." The royal cell where Lucas was held was unlike any prison he had ever seen. Its walls were smooth, made of a strange material that shimmered faintly in the low light. The bed, though plain, was softer than anything he'd slept on in years, and the air itself felt different, almost alive, as though the room itself was attuned to the queen's power. Lucas stood by the window, staring out at the twin moons hanging in the dark sky. His mind raced. He had never been one to be captured, let alone brought before a ruler like Queen Varela. And yet, here he was. The queen, untouchable, unapproachable, the very symbol of death and power, had allowed him to live. No, she had shown curiosity. A soft click of the door broke his thoughts. He turned to find two figures standing in the doorway, Queen Varela herself, accompanied by Zareth, her top advisor. The scientist's eyes were filled with uncertainty, a flicker of fear hidden behind his calm demeanor. He could sense the shift in the queen, the subtle change that was both strange and dangerous. Zareth, hesitant. "My queen, this is a mistake. He's too dangerous. His presence is unpredictable." Queen Varela ignored the warning, her eyes locked on Lucas. For the first time in centuries, she felt a stirring deep within her, something she couldn't explain, something that had been dormant for so long. Queen Varela, steadily, as she approached Lucas. "You didn't faint. You didn't burn. You didn't scream. Do you know what that means?" Lucas raised an eyebrow, his usual calm demeanor never wavering. Lucas, shrugging. "I'm built different." Varela tilted her head, a faint smile crossing her lips. She was intrigued. This human, this soldier from Earth, was unlike anyone she had ever encountered. He didn't cower before her power, and more importantly, he didn't seem afraid of her presence. Queen Varela, softly, to herself. "Interesting." She turned away, her silver hair flowing like a silken curtain, the faintest hum of energy vibrating in the air around her. There was something about him, something more than his resistance to her power. It wasn't just his defiance, it was his presence. He didn't just survive in her world, he seemed to challenge it. Queen Varela, to Zareth. "Take him to the Royal Research Tower. I want answers. I need to understand why he can touch me without dying." Zareth's eyes widened in fear, but he said nothing. He merely nodded, gesturing for Lucas to follow him. Lucas was led through the grand halls of the palace, his feet echoing softly against the smooth, glowing floors. As they walked, he couldn't help but notice how different everything felt, every room, every hall, alive with an energy he could barely understand. The palace, with its towering crystalline structures and walls adorned with alien symbols, was a place of wonder and mystery, like something out of a dream. The Royal Research Tower stood tall and silent, a place where the deepest secrets of the Zelar Empire were kept hidden from the common eye. It was a chamber of forbidden knowledge, with walls lined with tubes that hummed softly, glowing with a pale, eerie light. The air was thick with a sense of power, as if the very room itself was alive, filled with the ancient energy that Queen Varela had come to master. Lucas was led to the center of the room, where a large holographic display flickered to life, showing strange alien symbols and diagrams. The queen stood beside it, her silver armor reflecting the faint glow of the room. She wasn't just a ruler here, she was the embodiment of the Empire's power. Yet, for the first time, she didn't look so untouchable. There was an air of curiosity about her, a vulnerability that Lucas had noticed but hadn't yet fully understood. Zareth, the Queen's top advisor, approached with a strange device in his hands, a sleek, metallic scanner. He hesitated, his nervousness palpable as he looked from the Queen to Lucas. He had been wary of this human from the beginning, but even he could not deny the anomaly that was unfolding before them. Zareth, reluctantly. "My Queen, the scans are irregular. This human, his biology is unlike anything we've ever encountered." Varela turned her attention to Lucas, her glowing blue eyes studying him intently. There was something in the air now, something different, as if the entire room was holding its breath, waiting for the next moment to unfold. "Queen Varela," calmly. "You are not like the others. Your body, it does not reject my energy. It accepts it, changes with it." Lucas didn't flinch. He was used to strange situations, having seen and survived more than most would ever know. But this was different. He wasn't sure what the Queen meant by energy, but there was a strange pull in the air, a sensation he could feel deep inside him, as though something was awakening within him, something that had been dormant for a long time. Lucas, nonchalantly. "Maybe your energy just likes me?" Varela's lips curved into the smallest of smiles, something fleeting, almost imperceptible. It was the first time she had smiled since their meeting, and Lucas caught it, as brief as it was. There was something about this human that intrigued her, something that made her feel alive, in a way she hadn't in centuries. "Queen Varela," softly, almost to herself. "It's not magic. It's ancient energy. Before Zelar, before the Empire, before I became what I am now, this power existed. It's been with me since the Ascension ritual, and it's never been shared. Until now." She paused, as if weighing her next words carefully. Lucas could sense that she was revealing more than she intended, more than she had ever revealed to anyone. Queen Varela, eyes narrowing, almost searching for something in his eyes. "I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always untouchable. The Ascension ritual, it changed me. It gave me power, yes, but it also cursed me. It made me the Queen, but also an eternal prisoner of my own strength." Lucas stepped closer to her, his voice low but filled with understanding. "Lucas. Sounds like a bad trade." Varela's gaze shifted, surprised by the bluntness in his tone. No one had ever dared to speak to her so frankly, especially not about the very power that defined her existence. But there was something in his eyes, something different from the fear she had grown so accustomed to, that made her pause. "Queen Varela," softly, with a quiet reflection. "Maybe no one ever cared enough to speak to me like that." For a long moment, they simply stood there. The hum of the machines in the room was the only sound, a gentle reminder of the technological marvels of the Zelar Empire. But in this moment, it felt distant. It felt small compared to the space growing between them, something unspoken, something ancient, yet very real. Varela turned away from him, walking slowly towards the window, her figure framed by the light of distant stars. She stared out at the infinite void, as if searching for answers in the stars she had long ruled over. Queen Varela, whispering, "I've ruled this empire for centuries, but I've never allowed anyone to come close enough to see the truth. To see me." Lucas remained still, his mind racing. He had faced so many battles in his life, had fought for survival and for meaning in a world that offered him little. But standing here, in the presence of this alien queen, he realized that this was not just another fight. This was something else entirely. "Lucas," softly. "Then maybe it's time someone did." The air was heavy, thick with uncertainty as Lucas walked through the halls of the royal palace, his every step echoing in the cold, marble corridors. The palace, so grand, felt smaller now. Its once imposing walls now seemed like the confining borders of a cage. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, but not by the queen. It was the court, the nobles, the generals, those who whispered behind closed doors, all eyes fixed on him with suspicion, jealousy, and something darker. He arrived at the royal garden, a place filled with glowing trees and plants that seemed to hum with energy, like the beating heart of the empire itself. Queen Varela had invited him here, away from the watchful eyes of the court. It was in this quiet, sacred space that he felt a strange peace between them. Yet, despite the beauty around him, a sense of foreboding gnawed at the edges of his mind. Varela walked beside him, her silver robe shimmering under the twin suns, her long hair moving like a silver veil. For the first time in years, the weight of her power seemed to ease, the air around her less oppressive, less suffocating. Lucas, looking around, amazed. "This place, it's alive." Varela smiled softly, her gaze distant, as if remembering something long forgotten. "Queen Varela," quietly, "this garden reflects my spirit. When I am angry, it grows wild. When I am calm, it sings." They stopped by a tree that shimmered with a soft, blue glow. Lucas reached out to touch it, his fingers brushing the surface of the glowing bark. The tree pulsed with warmth, almost as if it were alive in response to his touch. "Lucas, so what's it singing now?" Varela's gaze softened as she looked at him, something akin to nostalgia flickering in her eyes. "Queen Varela, it's singing your name." There was a quiet pause between them, as if the world had slowed down, leaving only the two of them in this sacred space. But then, a voice broke the stillness, a low hiss from the shadows of the garden. "Noble, off-screen. She is weak." The moment hung in the air like a thread pulled taut, about to snap. A cloaked figure stepped forward from the shadows, a hidden weapon in their hand, a dark crystal blade, the very material capable of piercing the queen's powerful skin. The assassin moved swiftly, aiming for the queen, but Lucas's instincts flared to life. He shoved Varela aside, just as the assassin's blade descended. Time seemed to stretch as he felt the cold metal slice through his side. The pain exploded in his chest, and he staggered back, blood spilling onto the stone floor beneath him. The assassin's grin was short-lived as Lucas, fueled by desperation, grabbed a nearby metal pipe and swung it with all his remaining strength. The assassin dropped, stunned, but before Lucas could catch his breath, another figure leapt from the shadows, their blade aimed directly at his heart. Lucas, gritting his teeth, struggling to stay upright. Not today. But the blade struck, and the world around him blurred as he fell to his knees. Blood poured from the wound, and for a moment, it felt like the world was closing in on him. He could hear the sounds of footsteps rushing toward him, but his vision was fading. His only thought was the Queen Varela. He had to protect her. Then, just as he prepared for the final blow, a blinding light filled the air, and everything froze. The world seemed to stop as the assassin's blade hovered above Lucas, inches away from delivering the fatal strike. The cold steel gleamed in the dim light, its sharpness promising death. But before the blow could land, a sharp, crackling sound filled the air, like 1,000 stars collapsing at once. The entire room vibrated, the walls shaking with an overwhelming force. Then, the space around the assassin twisted and buckled. His body jerked violently as if caught in a storm of raw, untamable energy. He screamed, but it was a sound swallowed by the deafening hum that filled the room. His limbs were pulled upward, frozen in midair as if some unseen force was lifting him against his will. Queen Varela, her voice trembling with fury, echoing through the vast hall. "You will not touch him." The assassin's body writhed as if the very air was suffocating him. The power of Queen Varela surged, glowing brighter than ever before. The guards, the nobles all watched in stunned silence as the assassin's weapon turned to dust. With a final, horrifying scream, his body disintegrated into particles, dissolving into nothingness. A mere shadow of the man he once was. The throne room fell silent, the only sound the pounding of Lucas's blood in his ears. He looked up, his vision blurry, his body aching from the attack. But through the haze, he saw the Queen. The raw power that had just consumed the assassin now flowed from her like a river of light. She turned toward him, her face still fierce, but now softened by something more, a hint of concern. Queen Varela, kneeling beside Lucas, her hand gently brushing his wound. "Don't move. Stay with me." The Queen's energy swirled around him, glowing bright, her body radiating warmth and overwhelming, protective force that filled the air, cocooning him from the darkness. Lucas, gasping for breath, felt the coldness of the world around him begin to melt away. His side burned with the pain of the wound, but as her hand touched the blood-stained fabric, a soothing warmth flooded through him. "Lucas," his voice strained, barely audible. "You came for me, you saved me?" Her glowing blue eyes softened as they locked onto his. There was something fragile in her gaze now, something far removed from the untouchable queen of ice and power. In that moment, the queen who had ruled with fear and distance seemed so human. Queen Varela, her voice shaking, a whisper of vulnerability. I couldn't let you go. I felt your pain, through the bond. Her hand rested over his heart, and he could feel it, her pulse, her presence, more tangible than ever. The warmth of her energy surrounded him, and for the first time, he realized that she wasn't just the queen of an empire, she was someone who could feel, someone who could care. Lucas, barely smiling, his breath steadying. You're not as cold as they say. Varela's lips parted, a faint laugh escaping her. It was a sound he hadn't expected to hear from the queen, a sound that echoed with the humanity she had buried for so long. She looked down at him, her face filled with something that resembled both sorrow and relief. Queen Varela, softly. No. I've been cold for too long. The moment between them lingered, the distance between their hearts shrinking with each passing second. But the tranquility was short-lived. The room, once filled with a hum of energy, now pulsed with a different kind of tension. Lucas could feel it, the weight of the power shifting. Suddenly, the quiet murmur of footsteps approached, the air around them crackling with a foreboding chill. Varela's hand tightened around his, her gaze flicking to the shadows of the room. The nobles who had once watched her from a distance now stirred uneasily. They had seen what had happened. They had felt the change. Queen Varela, her voice cold again, commanding. Leave us. The guards and nobles hesitated for a moment before obeying, quickly clearing the room. The only sound left was the faint hum of the machines and the distant whisper of the wind. It was just Varela and Lucas now, alone. As the last of the courtiers disappeared into the hall, Varela's expression softened once more. She returned her gaze to Lucas, her face free of the mask of power she had worn for centuries. For the first time, she was unguarded, vulnerable. Queen Varela, standing, offering her hand to Lucas, helping him rise. I'll make sure you're safe. You have my word. Lucas stood, his legs shaking from the exertion of the fight, but there was something in Varela's voice, a certainty, that steadied him. He grasped her hand, surprised at how warm it felt, how real it felt. She wasn't just a queen anymore. She was a woman who had shared a part of herself with him, and in return, he had shown her something she had long forgotten. Lucas, looking at her, his voice steady. I'm not going anywhere. Her lips twitched into the faintest of smiles. Queen Varela, softly. Good. Neither am I. The soft glow of the twin moons bathed the royal gardens in an ethereal light, casting long, silent shadows beneath the trees that whispered in the wind. The petals of the glowing flowers drifted lazily in the air, carried by a gentle breeze that seemed to hum with ancient energy. Queen Varela and Lucas stood side by side, her silver hair fluttering in the wind, her expression calm but distant. The world around them felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something, perhaps a decision, perhaps a change. The queen's once immovable fortress of solitude seemed to melt away in the stillness of the garden. For the first time in centuries, she felt truly alive. The walls she had so carefully built around herself had begun to crack, and though she was not yet ready to admit it, the human by her side had everything to do with it. Lucas, gazing at the stars, his voice quiet. "You know, I never expected to be here. With you. I've seen wars, lost people, but none of that compares to this." Varela's gaze shifted to him, her blue eyes deepening with an emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Her hand brushed against the soft petals of a flower, her mind drifting back to a time long ago before her power had sealed her in an unbreakable prison of her own making. "Queen Varela," softly. "Neither did I. But now, I feel different. I haven't felt this alive in centuries." The words hung in the air between them, heavier than any declaration of loyalty or power. In this garden, surrounded by the timeless beauty of nature, they shared something no one else in the Empire could understand. Varela's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty and possibility. Lucas, turning to face her, his voice steady. "So what now? What do we do? There are forces out there that want to tear you down. This empire is filled with people who fear change." The queen's jaw tightened at the mention of the nobles and the advisors who had schemed against her for so long. She had seen their eyes filled with jealousy, their whispers of rebellion, their desire to return to the old ways, the ways that kept her isolated, kept her as nothing more than a weapon of fear. Queen Varela, a flicker of anger crossing her face. "I know. They will never accept change, not willingly. But they must. This empire has been built on fear for far too long. It's time for something new." Lucas stepped closer, his voice low but unwavering. "Lucas. And you're not alone in this. If you want to change it all, I'm with you." Varela's heart skipped a beat, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with her power. It was a feeling she hadn't known in so long. Trust. For the first time, she truly believed in something beyond the throne, beyond the empire. She believed in the human standing beside her, in the connection they had forged through defiance, through pain, and through something more, something deeper. "Queen Varela," gently. "You are more than just a prisoner to me, Lucas. You have changed everything. You make me believe that there is more to life than ruling." The words left her mouth before she could stop them, and for a moment, she looked away, as if afraid of what they meant. But Lucas's presence anchored her. He didn't look at her with awe or fear, but with something that felt more real than anything she had experienced in her long life. Lucas, smiling, his voice quiet but resolute. "I don't need anything from you. I just want to stay by your side. If you're ready to walk a new path, then I'll walk it with you." Her breath caught in her throat, and for a brief second, the air between them seemed to hum with the energy of a shared future. The weight of centuries of solitude, of isolation, seemed to lift just a little. She could feel the pull of something greater than a throne, something that had been buried deep inside her for as long as she could remember. Queen Varela, whispering, almost to herself, I've never allowed anyone to get this close. But you've made me see that there is another way. Maybe there's hope for me yet." Before Lucas could reply, a soft rustling sound broke the stillness of the garden. Two figures appeared from the shadows, Zareth and a high-ranking noble, their faces etched with concern and fear. The queen's face immediately hardened, her hand instinctively reaching for the energy that surged within her. Zareth, bowing his head in deference, but with a sense of unease. "My queen, we have news. The council is stirring. They've learned of your connection with the human. There are whispers of rebellion, plans to remove you from the throne." Varela's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing through Zareth with an intensity that sent a chill through the room. "Queen Varela," coldly. "Let them whisper. Let them plot. They don't understand what I've become." The noble standing beside Zareth hesitated before speaking, his voice trembling slightly. "Noble," fearfully. "My queen, the people, they are beginning to speak of change. They see you differently now. But the court, the nobles, they won't accept it. If they discover the truth." Queen Varela, interrupting, her voice filled with quiet power. "They will accept it. Or they will be silenced." A tense silence fell over the garden as the weight of her words settled on those present. But Lucas, standing beside her, could feel the resolve growing in her. He saw the queen, no longer just a figurehead of cold power, but someone who had made a choice to fight for something more than herself. Lucas, steadfastly. "They'll come for us, Queen Varela. But we'll be ready." Varela looked down at him, a slow smile curving her lips. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just a queen in a throne room, she was a woman with a purpose, standing beside someone who believed in her. Queen Varela, with quiet conviction. "We will change this empire. Together." And just like that, the Empire of Zelar, once ruled by fear and isolation, began to change. Queen Varela, once untouchable and alone, found a connection that broke through her centuries of cold power through a simple human act of defiance. Lucas Gray, a man who refused to bow, has not only survived but awakened something deep within her, a warmth, a spark of humanity she thought was long lost. But the story doesn't end here. As their bond deepens and the empire shifts beneath their feet, the question remains, will the Queen's transformation bring peace or chaos? And what other secrets lie hidden within the walls of the empire? If you've enjoyed this journey into the stars, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. What's next for Queen Varela and Lucas? Do you think the Empire will embrace change, or will the forces of power fight back? Join us for the next chapter of Alien Chronicles, where the mysteries of the galaxy continue to unfold. Until then, keep your eyes on the stars. The adventure has only just begun.